there we go. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Have your attention, please. All quiet, please. Thank you. So, let's go ahead and have your notes out. We're going to continue on with the Constitution. Yes, because the Constitution is very important. Even if we don't have as much time together, we still have to do the Constitution, because the Constitution is the most important document, right? Anna, who was the first president under the United States Constitution? Anna? No. John Hanson was the first president of Congress under the Articles of Confederation. Who's sometimes referred to simply as the first president of the United States? Thank you very much. Who's the current president of the United States? Joe Biden. That's right. Who's the next president of the United States? No predictions? Okay. All right. Here we go. Now, here we go. We're making progress. Flip over in your notes. Now, page 2. There's a lot of stuff in there. Hang on just a sec. There is a lot of stuff in the United States Constitution. Article 1, Congress, which presumably makes the laws. Now we're going to get to Article 1, Section 8, the powers of Congress. In many respects, this is the guts of the Constitution. This is what makes the United States government very powerful, certainly compared to the one we had a do-over from under the Articles of Confederation, which the United States government didn't have hardly any power. In fact, write that down. Article 1, Section 8. The United States government's got a lot more power. And we're going to give you some specifics as far as what those powers are. Yes, quick question.
Wait, did you say who did the first president to sign that?
The first president in the United States.
No, to sign the thing, the Declaration of Independence.
There's no president that signs the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence just told the British we want to leave.
I thought it was like.
I said, the question I asked was, who's the first president of the United States under the adopted, ratified United States Constitution? George Washington. The Constitution got started in 1787, finished up, ratified 1788, and then who came in and was elected as president? George Washington. And he served for 8 years. Oh, I need to give something to you. You all right with that? Of course you are. Yes, of course, because it's coming up next Tuesday. I put it up. Oh, no. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, yes, just a little scary, just a little bit of, whew, cool, I like that. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I don't even know where my book is.
Well, I guess you're going to need to find it. All right, so here we go. This is, wow, look at this. Purpose of Article 1, federalism, checks and balances, vetoes. Purpose of Article 2, elastic clause, and so forth. Read through. The textbook, we don't use it for lots of various different things because we get most of the information that we need relative to here. Read through it. There's some overlap, and there's some particular unique things. What are we going to do when you come in here first thing on Tuesday of next week? A quiz for 10 points. I want to say, I think it's all true, false. Yes, Michael?
Are we not watching that video?
What video?
The one we didn't.
If you check a Google Classroom, the one we didn't get to, you can check those out at home. Okay? Those are your assignments at home. There's not, I mean, this is the challenge that we have under the schedule that we have. In my class, I do a lot of instruction with you. In my class, I have heard from you, you really don't like having lots of stuff recorded, Zoom, and all that kind of stuff. So we go as much as we can, and yeah, but there's not as much of it that's like video oriented. I want to say there's one unit, second semester, that does have some video component, and I'll be doing the notes on that, and then I'll push the video so you watch it at home. But we'll see when we get to that, because who knows what exactly the situation is going to be by the time we get to that unit. But we're doing the Constitution, right? So, you ready? Let's get into the powers of the United States Congress. And when we say Congress, it's like, well, yeah, Congress gets to make the laws. And we've already seen who has a big impact on whether or not laws are even created. Yeah, the President of the United States, because the President's got veto power. I mean, that's a huge part. That's a very, very huge part. And we'll find out that later on, if you got the Congress that agrees with the president, and then somebody comes along and says, you know, that doesn't look constitutional. I'm going to file a lawsuit in the courts. And that lawsuit makes its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. You did that in art. How can the Supreme Court just look at something and go, wow, this is a law that was passed by Congress, signed by the president? Can the Supreme Court just go, no, sorry, it's unconstitutional? Yes, it's a very, very big power the Supreme Court has. It's huge, very important. And it's very unique in our country. Not all countries have a powerful court like that. It's going to be a big thing that you guys are going to learn about that a lot of students don't know. A lot of students know, oh yeah, the president, that's a very important position. But a lot of students don't know how important the Supreme Court is. So that's coming up, okay? So one of the things, though, to determine is it constitutional? Can we do this? All right, here we go. Let's look at the specific things. Top of page 2, bullet point, powers of Congress. We're going to go bing, 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 bing. Some of them are going to take a little bit longer because they're huge, okay? Write this down. Once upon a time, before we had our Constitution, how much, under the Articles of Confederation, how much could our national government tax the people? Not at all. No, you can write that down. In the first government we had, there was no taxation from the national government. I mean, you had to pay state taxes because you belonged to your state, but you didn't pay national taxes. Here's another one. Could the United States government actually borrow money? No. The United States government couldn't borrow money under the Articles of Confederation. Did the United States government, under the Articles of Confederation, owe a lot of money? Yeah. To all those veterans. Remember the veterans that fought in the American Revolution? And they're like, hey, we're supposed to get paid for the work we did, and we're not seeing any of it. Or all the people that loaned money for the American Revolution war effort. They need to get their money back. Make sure you write this down. One of the reasons we created the Constitution, to create a stronger national government, was to pay off the loans and maybe make some more loans. Hang on just a second, because I want to bring this up. This part, I think that we're going into, you can understand in a sense, because raise your hand if someday you're going to owe money. Really? Anna, are you going to owe money? For what? Well, why can't you just pay for college as you're going to college? Oh my, it's really expensive? Can you just save up a bunch and then pay for it later? Oh my gosh. So can you just work? Can you like work and go to school and pay off college as you're going? It's kind of hard to do all that. How unusual is it for a college student to borrow money for college? It's not very unusual at all. Are you going to be able to pay that off eventually? How? Where are you going to get the money? Oh. When you go to after you finish college, is whatever you did at college going to help you earn money to pay that off? Yep. Here's one for you. You know who actually, let's see if you can, raise your hand if you can figure this out. What line of work that requires not only college, but a lot of, like college after college, what line of work do people study for, and they take out massive student loans? That's pretty high up, because you got 4 years of school, 4 years of college, and then 3 years of law school. But there's one that is much bigger than that. Hang on just a second. Let me get this one answered. I think I heard it over here. Yeah, if you want to be a doctor, are you kidding me? You know how expensive it is to get the education to become a doctor? You know how much loans those guys take out? How are they going to pay that off? With the fancy jobs, doing all their medical things and so forth. That's the amazing thing. Make a little note of this. The more you have the ability to pay off loans, like doctors can pay off loans, the more banks are going to loan you money. Do you understand that? So if you go to a bank and say, I want to borrow a bunch of money, they're going to look and go, well, what's it for? And then they're going to ask, like, well, are you going to be able to pay it off? Anna goes, borrows a bunch of money for college. They're going to look and go, let me see, she's going to college and so forth. Yeah, we'll loan her that money, and we expect, and she will, be paying off that loan when she finishes college. After getting a job to help pay off that loan. Does that make sense? Okay, your question.
Oh, I forgot.
Okay, over here. Yeah, well, we'll see that the United States is going to be able to borrow money from banks or other kinds of things, and we'll be able to print off money, and we'll be able to raise money and taxes and different things. So we're going to get all into that right now, but I just wanted to kind of give you a framework and so forth. How many of you guys someday want to own your own house? You want to own your own house?
No.
Do you think you'll be able to buy a house, like pay what they call cash on the barrel, pay cash for the entire thing? How many of you guys expect that you might actually go to the bank and take out a loan and pay off mortgage payments over 15, 20, typically 30 years? Yeah, that's more like it. And you'll continue to have to work in order to make sure to pay off those loans. That's how it works. That's how the system works. How many of you guys think that you're going to find some bank that's going to be able to loan you millions and millions of dollars that you can just blow on some big party without an expectation of ever paying it back? That's not how banks work. They're not going to give you that money.
I have two questions. First, these things, like you could take out a loan of like $1 million or something, and then invest it, and if you get like $1 billion from that, pay them back, or will they not let you?
Yeah, no, you'll be paying it back. No, in fact, the people that bank gives loans to are people, like if you're a billionaire already, are they going to loan you a lot of money? Heck yeah. Oh yeah. Because even if you don't, even if your investments don't work out very well, you've got $1 billion already in property and other kinds of things that the bank can tap into to make sure that you pay that loan. Because it's like this. Jan, if you bought a house, took out a loan and bought a house, and you can't pay the loans on the house, you can't pay the mortgage, what's the bank going to do? They're not going to trust you. So they're like, if you're not paying the money for the mortgage for the house, what else are they going to do besides not trust you? Oh no, they're already going to charge you interest on the thing. I mean, so they're already. I mean, if you take out a $100,000 loan, I mean, you're going to be charging interest over the years, so you'll end up having to pay, I don't know, $125,000, $150,000 if you added up all of the $100,000 plus interest. Now, what are they going to say to you if you don't pay off the mortgage for the house you're living in? That's so scary. They're just going to kick you out of the house and sell the house and try and get back all the money that you still owe them? Huh? What about if you bought a car and you can't pay the car payments? What are they going to do with the car? They're going to come and send a repo man while you're asleep in your house that you're not paying for, and they're going to come and they're going to take the car away? Yes, they will. I'm like, oh my gosh. What happens in the United States of America if we don't pay off our loans? Oh, don't even say that. That's where we're headed right now. You ready? Okay, quick question. Yes?
What do you mean by borrowing, like on the...
I'm going to tell you. We're going to get some terminology here. Okay, you ready? All right. So, there's two powers that Congress is going to have. I'm going to give you both of these together. The power to tax and the power to borrow money, which is also known as selling bonds. Okay? All right. So if the United States sells a bond to you, they're basically treating you like a bank. You buy the bond. Will you ever get that money back? Yes, plus interest, exactly. That's how bonds work. Does that make sense? So if you bought a bond, it's like you're loaning money to the government. And they have an expectation that they will pay it back. Okay? So, do you understand taxes? How many of you guys pay taxes? How many of you guys expect to pay taxes? Who said, if you don't pay your taxes to the federal government, I mean, is there a part of the federal government that's going to be like on you, like, the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS? You're like, can we have a little conversation? You're supposed to pay taxes and you didn't, and we're just going to have like some criminal penalties coming your way. Kind of scary, huh? Yeah.
So as a minor, when you have a job, you get taxed out of your paycheck, but because you can't like join the military, like get a house and like all these other rights of being an adult, isn't that taxation?
We'll look at it this way. Look at it this way. We'll look at it this way, okay? So if you're paying taxes as a young person, how many of you guys pay taxes like doing some jobs and so forth, right? Typically, you're not making enough money to actually get to the level of actually having to pay income taxes like other adults. But there's certain kinds of taxes you'll never be able to get your money back. Some of those other taxes you'll get your money back, or you just sign a paper and they don't take those out of your paycheck. But other taxes, some of you guys are like, oh my gosh, did I really need to know this? Other taxes, you won't be able to get those back. Those go to support things like the Medicare program, Medicaid program, and things like that. So, okay? All right, so the federal government has the power to tax. Boom. The biggest source of tax is going to be the income tax, as well as corporate income taxes. So corporations, businesses, they pay taxes on the amount of money that they earn in a given year. Does that make sense? So with that money collected, now the federal government, the national government, can buy stuff. And we'll see things that they buy a military, buy a space program, buy retirement programs, buy transportation, buy all kinds of stuff, right? So we got federal taxes, national taxes coming in, and we can buy stuff with that. That's easy. Well, you guys like paying taxes?
Not really.
Oh, you're like, I don't like paying taxes. All right, well, how about this one? You ready? Well, do you like having your programs that support you to be cut?
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You're going to be ultimately in charge of managing your own finances. If you don't have the money, can you spend it? You can go to a bank and say, hey, I'd like to spend more money. Can I borrow some money? Actually, what is your way of actually increasing the amount of money you have? Get a job, please. Thank you very much. Get a job. That's your personal way of raising taxes, raising revenue, so you can spend it. All right? What if you don't have enough money coming in to pay for all the things that you like? Well, it's like we just asked Anna. She wants to live and eat and have clothing and go to college. That's too expensive. You can't make enough money to do all that right at the same time. So what was your plan? And take out loans, exactly. So there are times when you take out loans. Write this down. There are times when the government takes out loans. I'll give you an example, and you'll see this in the charts later on. World War II, very good example. The United States of America had a very expensive proposition going on. We were fighting war in Europe against the Nazis in Germany, and in Asia and the Pacific against the Japanese. Those are very expensive things to do, aren't they? We couldn't raise enough taxes to pay for all of the military. What do you suppose we did? Don't be careful. If you're just like, oh, well, just print money. What happens to the value of money if you print? It goes down, yeah. So here's what we did. We actually went out and were like, we need to borrow a lot of money. So we did. We sold war bonds. I literally called it war bonds. And we're like, it's patriotic. If you got money sitting around your house, loan it to the United States government. We really need it right now because we're fighting a war. Your brother, your uncle, your father, or your son is off fighting in the Pacific or in Europe. We need to support them with what they need. We need the weapons and equipment and so forth so they can win and get the job done. Yes, can we do that? Write it down. During World War II, oh my gosh, the United States borrowed a lot of money. Because it's really expensive. It's like you're in college. You need to borrow money right now to get the job done. Got it? Now here's the deal. What were we anticipating after World War I? After World War II? After we borrowed all that money? Exactly. Pay it off. Pay it off. Pay it off. Right? Don't have these big, massive loans. Pay it off over time. Did the United States do that? Yeah, write it down. Yeah. And our economy grew, and we were paying off the loans. To a degree, yeah.
Where did we borrow it from?
The people.
What?
American people.
Taxes?
No, don't say taxes. That's different. Taxes, if America makes you pay a tax, you have to do it. If America comes up and says, can you loan me some money? That's your choice. But it's an interesting question. Today, there's Americans that loan money to the United States government. They buy bonds. You know who else buys bonds of America's debt? They loan money to America and expect to be paid off on a regular basis. Countries, other countries in the world.
I'm confused.
So if America today wants to spend a bunch of money, I mean the American government, and we don't have that money, and we need to borrow it, who's going to loan us money that we pay them off with interest? Other countries. Do you know which country owns a lot of bonds? China does. That's a good guess. Think of it like this. They've invested in you. If a bank loans money to Anna, they're investing in Anna. Well, I know it is. What, loaning money to Anna so she can go to college? No, this is a good point. We have just begun to get you scared. This is the scary lesson for you guys today, because I got some interesting charts. You can go, oh no, oh man. We got through World War II. We were winners. We were able to pay down those loans. Yes. I mean, Anna, when you finish college and so forth, you got to pay off the student loan. Are you going to get into another big, huge, massive loan, like buy a house or something? You're like, I don't know. I don't like living in maybe I will. I got a good job. I can pay it off. Not a bad idea. In fact, buying a house, taking a loan out for a house is not a bad thing. Because after you pay off the loan, what do you got? A house. Is that got good value? Yeah, what can you do with a house? You can live there. Exactly. Hello. Houses are pretty practical investments. You can live in them. Yeah, and make sure you insure them in case they burn down. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. Around here, if you know anything, it's like, what has happened to the average house value in the Treasure Valley over the last 10 years? Yeah, which is really tough because you're like, wow, oh my gosh, can I even live here anymore? Yeah, it's just tough. All right, so I love this. It's like, your fiscal irresponsible policies will ruin this country. The elephant is the Republican, okay, saying the Democrat is taxing too much and spending too much. And the Democrat is looking over here going, dude, you're the same problem. You're borrowing too much and spending. How many of you guys think that maybe we should spend half as much on public education as we do right now? We could cut a lot of programs. We could save a lot of money, right? What would that do like your education if there was half as much money being spent? It would make it not so good, right? I mean, before public education, people had to pay for their education and so forth. There'd be some issues. All right, let's look at this. I'm going to introduce some terms. First, deficit. And the opposite of deficit is below. What do you suppose is the opposite of deficit? Very good, surplus. Oh, you guys are in econ. Did you learn some of these in econ? No. Okay, well, you just know it. All right. So, here we go. This is a chart that shows you how much money we went into debt. They also do this as a percentage of the economy. So here's the idea. If you've got a really wealthy economy, can that economy afford to borrow money? Can the government afford to borrow money on that?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to get the biggest home loans to buy the biggest houses? Really rich doctors or maybe people that don't make as much money? Really rich doctors and so forth. Here's the United States of America. During World War II, oh my gosh, we were spending crazy. We didn't want to raise taxes on everybody because it's like, man, we wanted them to donate their money to the United States government voluntarily. So we borrowed a tremendous amount of money. We spent all kinds of stuff. But after the war, eventually, we were bringing in more money in taxes than we were actually spending. But here's an interesting thing. As a percentage of the national government's, of the national economy, it looks like we're into deficit spending. Write this down. We're into deficit spending right now. We're into deficit spending. Okay? So it kind of works out this way. If in a given year, right, here, watch my hands. In a given year, we have this much money coming in taxes. See where my hand is? All right? And then, this is the spending. Uh-oh. Are we spending more than we're bringing in taxes? And my hands, take a look here, Vera. Here's the spending, here's the taxes. Are we spending more? Is that a deficit or a surplus? That's a deficit, so what are we going to do?
Raise taxes.
We raise taxes is one thing. We could raise the taxes, or we could reduce the spending. What's another option that we do all the time? Borrow. We borrow the difference. So we'll just borrow that much. That's not much. Just take that little bit and just throw it into the rest of the accumulated pile of debt with interest. Wow. I mean, you're not just going to loan money to the United States and just say, hey, whenever you can pay it off, that's fine, and you can pay the same amount that you borrowed. Yeah, there you go. You want to make money. Boy, howdy. Good grief. Oh, there's the accumulated budget deficit. Oh, my. Wait a minute. No, whoa. No, that's just each year's deficit. That's just each year's deficit. Oh, my gosh, we were having to spend a lot of extra money. Do you remember? This would have been when you were quite some. This would have been about like 10, 12 years ago. The economy went down, and so there wasn't as much tax money coming in, and then we weren't cutting the programs. In fact, we were spending more on unemployment benefits and things to try and help people out, because that's what we do. We help people out during times of difficulty. So we did a whole bunch of deficit spending. Got a little bit better. Oh, but now it's going. So that's the accumulated deficit. That's the individual deficit over time. I wonder what it looks like when you add deficits to each other year after year after year. That's called accumulated debt. Oh, my goodness. Well, I mean, but that's just like you. Anna, what is her debt right now? It's like hardly anything. I mean, do you even owe money? Yeah, but what's her debt going to be like in 10 years from now? It's going to be a lot. But what's her income ability? Hopefully enough. Yeah, it's like, here's my income plan. I'm going to marry rich. Hope that works out for you, There's like, that's my idea. No, it's not. I mean, here's a plan for the future. Responsible plan. Have the ability to earn an income that can support yourself in case something goes funky, okay? You don't necessarily have to be stuck. So, has the debt accumulated year after year after year? Well, this was like during the Obama years, and so what is that, like $15 trillion? $15 trillion? It's a lot of money. But, don't freak out too much. This is a really helpful chart, because this actually shows, all right, here we go. This is the accumulated debt. Okay, so it's going up bit by bit by bit. But this is the gross public debt as a percentage of the GDP. I like this one because this shows you World War II. Oh my gosh, we borrowed a lot. But notice what happened to our percentage of debt compared to like how big the economy was. Here's the economy. You don't actually see it on this chart here. The economy is growing and growing. The 50s and 60s, the economy is growing. People are doing jobs and all kinds of stuff. And the percentage of debt is going down. I mean, it's like got to about 30%. It's pretty good. So if you compare the size of the economy and then how much the government owes, that's not too bad, right? Consider this. I'll put it this way. When you retire, do you want to be debt-free?
No.
Really? Because if you're not debt-free, what do you have to do? But wait a minute. You still have to buy food and health care and stuff. So if you're old and you still owe a bunch for your house and other kinds of things, what do you have to do in order to pay that? Can you just print money? Work. Some people might be doing work in their older years because they want to. Other people are doing it because they have to earn the money. So, what can the United States do? I mean, is there any danger in just borrowing more money? Is there any danger in that? I'm sure China's never going to put us any conditions on the money that they're loaning us. I'm sure they're never going to say something like, oh, those friends of yours over in Taiwan, you have to let them go. Gotta let them go. If you want us to continue loaning money to you, gotta let them go. So this is the scary thing. So here is the accumulated debt. And this was even like 10 years ago. 14 or 15 trillion dollars. But you can see it's starting to creep up again as a percentage of the overall economy. You're like, Mr. Hanson's scaring me with his slides and his charts. Oh, my God. Oh, look, here it is. This is an update. Here was the original national debt. Can anyone tell me what in President Trump's plans that was enacted might increase the amount of money, amount of debt? What? Well, and that didn't actually turn out to be very expensive because the Democrats in the Senate were never really interested in having the wall funded, so it was never really funded. It was a big priority for Trump, but it never really got enacted by the House and the Senate and so forth. Yeah? Military and so forth. But sometimes you get Republicans and Democrats who are like, yeah, we got to spend money in the military because we need that. Sometimes if you cut taxes, write this down. Sometimes if you cut taxes, because people like having their taxes cut. And arguably, sometimes if you let the people keep their money, they'll invest it and the economy will grow. But sometimes they just have their money and the government doesn't have it because they're not collecting it in taxes because it's a tax cut. That's kind of where this one has come along. The tax cuts, people who are having less taxes are like, I like that part, but we're still doing a lot of the spending that we do. So if you want to retire debt-free and you don't want to have to go back to work and so forth, are you just going to spend less money? I guess so. How many of you guys are like, I want to retire and have so much money. I want to retire at age 30 and have so much money I can travel around the world. I can do whatever I want. It'll be awesome. I don't have to continue earning money in my whole entire adult life. How many of you guys are like, I'm going to win the lottery. That's going to set me on a really strong financial position for the rest of my life. Don't plan on that. Yes.
How do you invest properly if you need to get rich?
Good question. I would say your initial investments have to be stable, solid, safe. Buy bonds. Is America going to pay off your bond when it comes time? Yes, they will. And they'll buy more if they have to. And that's pretty much what happens. So when your bonds are matured, let's say it's a 5-year bond, 5-year United States Treasury bond, you'll get that money plus interest. That's a safe investment. That's why a lot of countries around the world are like, I'm going to loan money to the United States government. They're a good bet. That's why China has invested in the United States. Because we pay our full loan. You know what would happen in the United States and the world if the United States government all of a sudden said, not going to pay off the bonds anymore? The whole world would go crazy. It's a bad thing when a business goes bankrupt or a person goes bankrupt. When the entire United States government goes bankrupt, you don't want to be there. Run for the hills. This would be really bad. So, what do you think? In our recent situation, have we had to borrow more money or have we been able to bring expenses down? How has COVID impacted our financial situation? I just found this slide. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. All right, so this is kind of a recap of things we saw. Like I told you, the United States, our economy was only so big, and we had a big ticket thing. We had to win World War II, so we borrowed a lot of money compared to the size of our economy. In the 50s and 60s, we still have a lot of that debt, but our income capacity in the 50s and 60s and 70s, the United States economy is growing. So by 1974, the amount of debt that we have accumulated is only 23% compared to the size of our economy. But what's been happening lately? We've been borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. It's okay, because if we borrow now, who is going to be in a position to have to deal with it later on? Who's going to be working when maybe the decision is, well, maybe we need to raise taxes on the workers? Could be you. Oh, the older people in this country would never do that to you. We wouldn't kick the can down the road. We wouldn't just spend money just for the sake of spending money and then pass on the bill for you guys, would we? I'm not trying to get you to hate old people and so forth. But it's like, here, look at this. We've gone into further debt during the time of COVID. Well, what would you rather us do? Tell all the people who are out of jobs, sucks to be you. What happens in a country when you have a massive number of people who are out of jobs? Let me see. Does the government maintain legitimacy? Not a national security, not domestic security. Oh, economic social satisfaction. What happens when you have massive unemployment and people are starving in the streets? Economic dissatisfaction. And they could do all kinds of things. So, is this a small price to pay? To borrow money and go, what is this now? I don't know. It's just this massive debt that we're in order to get us through these difficult times? What would you like to see happen as you go into your 20s and 30s? Would you like to see this going down the other direction maybe as compared to like after World War II? I hope so too. It's one thing when it's your country. You have to be careful individually not to borrow too much. Because I don't know if you've ever known somebody, like, they bought a big house, but then they couldn't pay off on it. And then they had to move out of the house and sell it for whatever they could. It's not much fun, but that's how the world works. Here, this is vulnerability, okay? Reality. But let's double back on this. Can the United States do this constitutionally? Yes. We can raise taxes, and we can also borrow money.
What country do you know that's like close to us that has like the best economy?
It helps if you have a lot of natural resources, and that's kind of cheating. So like if you're in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia, you don't have a lot of people, but you got a lot of oil coming out of the ground. And actually Saudi Arabia is careful and Kuwait, because they got a lot of oil and they're also looking around going, well, one, oil could run out. Two, we could be shifting away from like oil burning as a fuel source. So what do they do with the money they make from it? They invested it into like banking and other kinds of things. So that's what I would say for you guys. When you're earning money in your early years, what should you do so that the latter part of your years when you're kind of tired, you don't want to keep working? Invest it. And you can tap into it when you're retired. Hope that works out for you. You do? Okay.
You ask for like $1 million loan for a house, right? You get the loan, so you buy the house, and then you can sell it for $2 million, and then you pay it off, and then you have a $3 million.
Have you been buying stock at GameStop these days? Have you? I wondered about that. I mean, there's all kinds of different things, and if yours works, great for you. I would say be a little bit more cautious, because if you buy a house that's worth $1 million, it's probably what it's worth. So what all of a sudden is going to make it so that somebody's willing to buy that for $2 million like a day later?
Well,
I don't think so.
we'll take this year as an example. We've been looking at the
What goes up?
The house I come down.
Sometimes.
The house I live in right now, we bought it for like, I don't know, $400,000. Now it's worth like $700,000.
So here's the deal. You sell that so you make more money. Then what do? You take that money and you buy an expensive house in the same neighborhood. It helps if you're downsizing. So if you're going from a good-sized house and you're going to buy something smaller, that's when you can cash in all that appreciated value of your house, right? So I mean, if your folks are selling the house in this area for a lot more than they bought it for, and they're moving to an area that's much cheaper, that works out great. But if they're just moving to another house in this area, I mean, it's just kind of this and that. Was that fun? Taxes and spending and bonds and borrowing and stuff. You're like, Mr. Hansen's making me depressed. It's okay. Here's what you do. Work real hard, pay your taxes and so forth, but don't expect too much. And hopefully we won't be in like really difficult situations. Okay? Yes, quick question, then we're going to go on to regulate commerce.
You know, I personally will never do that. You know why?
You're going to go to jail then.
Because I live in a state where we don't have to pay.
Really, let me see. How many states are in the United States of America? 50, and all the territories. And you have to pay federal taxes if you live in those areas.
Well, what I mean is like,
Sorry.
now we have to, like here in Idaho, we have to pay like 6% tax.
Sales tax.
But in Montana, you don't have to pay.
It's different, yeah. They have different tax structures and so forth.
But that's like
Yeah.
what I'll pay like taxes
There's all kinds of, there's federal taxes, and then there's state taxes, there's local taxes, all kinds of stuff. All right, here we go. Write this down. You ready? The next bullet point. Congress, as in the federal government, can regulate interstate commerce. That means business, trade, going from one state to the other. Okay? That was new. They didn't have that before the Constitution. States were like doing whatever they wanted to do. And so they said, okay, we'll let Congress regulate the trade going back and forth. Okay? So this is also referred to as the Commerce Clause. Gives Congress the broad power to regulate all business activities that cross state lines or affect more than one state, pretty much everything. You can write that down. It covers all kinds of things. So if Congress is like, well, we want to make sure that food that travels from state to state is safe. Can they regulate food safety? Yes, according to what part of the Constitution? The Commerce Clause. Can they regulate things that are as far as like drugs, that drugs are safe, you know, like over-the-counter medications and so forth, that they're safe? Can they regulate that? Yes. Can the federal government come up and like mandate, I don't know, a minimum wage? Because minimum wage are paid to people who work on stuff that is sold in other states. Yes, yes, yes. It is one of the bigger powers that Congress has, and it's grown over the years. So all kinds of regulations and so forth that Congress has done. If you don't like the regulations, talk to your members of Congress and get them to reduce it. But as far as Congress having the ability to do that, they can. So you've got all kinds of businesses trading all kinds of things. Even here, check this out. Some kid gets apples on the tree in the backyard, goes up into the front of the house, and sells them. Could Congress regulate that? But that's not interstate commerce. The tree is in this state, and the sales are going on this same state. Is it possible that somebody could come in from some other state and buy the? Oh, it is possible. So if it is possible that somebody from another state is going to be involved in this trade thing, Congress can regulate it. Got it? It's very expansive. And this has been the underpinning of the growth of all kinds of rules and regulations affecting business and commerce and so forth. Yeah. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I mean, at one point, I don't know. They're just examples of some of the ones. I know everyone looks at this and like, ooh, Coca-Cola, ooh, anyway. Sonic, ooh, I don't know. And that may have even changed after time. I mean, Albertsons for a while didn't even exist as an Idaho corporation. It was like bought up by somebody else, but I think it's now in Idaho anymore. Okay, got that?
Yes.
All right. You guys ready? Oh my gosh, Verizon it says. I can't even read some of the other ones. Delaware, it just looks like a little pink thing. So anyway, all right, next one. Next bullet point, naturalization. What is naturalization? All natural. Oh, what is naturalization? The naturalization process is the process of becoming a United States citizen. Write that down. So who has the authority to determine whether or not people can become United States citizens or even live legally in this country? Congress does, together with the president. Which, by the way, can the president just pick up a piece of paper and go, I'm just going to, by myself, with an executive order, legalize all kinds of various different people who are in our country? No, says the Supreme Court. You can try it, but the Supreme Court will say that is a power of Congress. Okay? If Congress is going to pass a law dealing with immigration, good luck. You have to get through that whole crazy process that we talked about before. Get enough people in the House, and then get at least 60 senators, and then get the president to go along with it. It's really hard. Okay? Let me just throw this out. What do you suppose, over the last 4 years, have we increased immigration or decreased it? It's been decreased a little bit. Yeah, there's some components that the president has, but most of it is left up to Congress, okay, with the president's signature. Oh, and by the way, the naturalization, you have to take a test to become naturalized, and you guys are going to take that test. You're like, what? 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 I'm already a U.S. citizen. So here's the deal. Before the end of the year, you have to take have you heard of the civics exam? The civics exam is for a graduation requirement. It's not that hard. It's 100 questions. I'll give it to you, multiple choice. Yeah. Some of them are like, what's the day of the year that independence is celebrated? You're not before the end of this semester.
This-
What? Yep. What? You'll do fine. I'll give you like the 100 things that are on it, and then we'll put it in a multiple choice thing. I expect that all of you will get at least 70. Most of you above 80. Even many more of you are going to be above 90%.
I'm gonna get.
It's going to be awesome. You can do it. Yeah. Yep. They have an interview with you about certain issues and so forth that are part of it, and yeah, it's doable. It takes a little time. It's a time process. You practice. Do you want to be a U.S. citizen? You practice. Yeah, usually the biggest challenge is sometimes the linguistic part. But I tell you what, people who pass that test, many of them know more about the United States and government and history and geography than people who were born in this country.
Just moved to Canada.
Yeah, so this is why the state of Idaho required this for you to graduate, that you pass that test with at least a 70%.